Okay, we are live. How's everyone doing out there tonight?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Happy Sunday, happy Sunday.
That's right, happy Sunday. I'm John Gardner. This is my wife and law partner, Radlin Mendoza. And we come to you every Sunday night to give you immigration updates, answer your questions. We're going to do a couple fun things tonight. And I also wanted to start off by wishing my lovely wife a happy birthday. She just celebrated a birthday a couple days ago.
Yes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It has been nonstop celebration. Everyone is so nice and kind to me, and I am just immense gratitude. I already said it. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Annie. We're also going to do a fun thing tonight. We're going to do our immigration inspirational story that we do every week, and we're also going to talk about the show Jane the Virgin, which you might be thinking, why would we be talking about that? Well, we're gonna address an immigration issue in that case and discuss it a little bit. All right. We also are going to bring you immigration updates. I'm going to talk about sort of where the legislation is. Radlin's going to give you some USCIS updates. We're going to talk about some other issues like the driving privilege card and marijuana, and most importantly, answer your questions. That's really what we want to do, is answer your legal questions. So if you have a question, please put it in the comments and we will answer it tonight in real time. All right.
Fantastic. And I am going to try to keep up with the comments. So if I'm looking down, it's not because I'm not paying attention. It might be because I'm not paying attention.
No, she's on a computer.
I'm always trying to pay attention. Carrie Scott, thank you so much for wishing me a happy birthday. She wants to know, where are we located? We are located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and we serve people all around the world. So
yes,
we're just virtually located. How about if we say that? Is that even anything?
Yes.
Is it? It is now.
Well, I mean, it's true. We're in Virginia Beach, but we have clients all over the world. We have clients all over the United States. So Immigration law is a federal law, so we can represent anyone, anywhere for that, quite frankly. And because of the technology we have today with Zoom and electronic filing and so forth, and DocuSign and all these other wonderful tools, we can easily represent people from anywhere. Don't have to be here in Virginia Beach, although it's a lovely place if you want to come here. Okay, let's see.
Okay, so we've got a couple of comments here. Elder, thank you so much for being here today and wishing me a happy birthday. This is Elder's first time here. Welcome, welcome. Great to see you.
Before she fields that question, I just want to give one disclaimer real quick, and that is that what we do here is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not technically legal advice, okay?
It is not legal advice. No, that is correct.
We are going to answer questions, but...
And I've got the questions on screen. I am cutting and pasting. So why don't we go ahead? We'll take this question in a couple of minutes, but we'll go ahead and start with some of the things that we're going to do. Well, you already did it, didn't you?
I did.
You did.
Yep,
see, I was paying attention, but not really.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were.
Keep up with the comments. All right, cool. Let's see here. Want to say hello to some of our regulars. Miss Evelina, great to see you. And I think I saw Aunt Sue.
How did she
pop up?
Hi,
yes,
Sue.
she did.
That's sweet.
So anyhow, let's see. What are we jumping into first? Are we going to jump into inspirational story?
Let's do our inspirational story real fast, and then we'll field the first question that we have. Well, some more people are still signing on.
You know what? Before we get into the inspirational story, I just want to let everyone know that we had a very successful Citizenship Day, 15th annual Citizenship Day on Saturday, February the 20th.
Yesterday.
And we weren't, was that yesterday? Oh yeah,
yesterday.
It's kind of a whirlwind. So it has been birthday weekend, and it's just been amazing. It's just been so much stuff going on. But one of the things that went on birthday weekend was Citizenship Day. And Gardner Mendoza and I have been involved in Citizenship Day for many years. I don't even know how long. This is the 15th annual year. We've probably been doing Citizenship Day for the 15 years that it's been going on, right?
Probably 15 years, yeah.
So we were able to assist 10 people through Zoom. So it was kind of it was a really good test to see what we could do with our volunteers. We had 5 volunteers, and I just want to say thank you to the applicants who came and took the plunge and helped us let them apply for citizenship through the N400. And I also want to thank our volunteers, of course, immigration professionals, lawyers, law students, paralegals, and we even had a former immigration officer assisting. She's a genius, and you'll hear more about her later. But we're just so happy for people to step up and volunteer for this. And in the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, we had 50 attorney volunteers for this event. So
That's awesome.
We're going to do it again. Citizenship Day comes every single year. There are probably going to be more workshops between now and the next time. I wanted to mention that HOGAR, it is an organization, a community-based organization, and I believe it's based out of Maryland, but they are having their Citizenship Day on March the 10th, and so they're still accepting applicants. It is a low bono. We did ours for free, no charge, and most of the CBOs, the community-based organizations that I worked with as co-chair, there was no charge. HOGAR does charge, but it's a very, very low charge to help you with your N400. So if you still need help with that, you want an attorney, maybe you even can get a fee waiver completed on your behalf so you don't have to pay the $725 filing fee. Please DM us, direct message us, and we will send you that information to the HOGAR location. So I wanted to just mention that. And on top of that, again, John said it was a birthday weekend. My birthday was on Friday. I love my birthday. I don't know why I love my birthday so much. John knows, like, yeah, she loves her birthday.
She does. That's
and
true.
I love celebrating it. And this year, I was honestly just thinking, the weather was just crummy, right? The weather's been really bad here in Virginia Beach for 14 straight days. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good chill weekend, and I'm going to just chill out on my birthday and binge watch Jane the Virgin. But there were other surprise plans for me, and I'm so happy that there were, because it was amazing. I would not change it. But thank you guys so much for your messages, your texts, the celebrations that were planned for me, the surprises that were planned for me. I don't know if you guys saw on my Facebook, we actually did the polar plunge. It was like 36 degrees, and the water was maybe 38 degrees. And John and I went in, 2 of our daughters and our nieces and nephews, we went into the bay, and it was crazy. And I was absolutely 100% alive after we did that polar plunge. So that was awesome. But
It's a huge ice bath.
it was a huge ice bath, yeah. All right, guys, so keep the questions coming. I do have one question. Actually, before we get into inspirational stories of the week, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question. So I'm having a hard time, since I can't see the screen that far to see the name, but I do have the questions. Do you have experience on defending the denied N400 due to petty offense exception even after all the civics, U.S. history, and English tests are passed? This petty offense happened in June 2019, which is within the statutory period of 5 years. I am the spouse about citizenship. We need help to defend this. So the answer is yes. We do, and we do N400 appeals, and of course there is a time limit on that. And essentially, what this person writing in is talking about is if you are applying for U.S. citizenship and you actually have a conviction for a petty offense, okay, let's just say this particular one that often comes up is theft. Let's just say this, I have no idea what the petty offense is. And let's just say the conviction is for theft. If that person was the maximum sentence for theft in Virginia, again, assuming this is in Virginia, the maximum penalty for theft is 12 months, right? 12 months jail sentence, right? Right. And if you received an imposed sentence of 6 months or less, even though this conviction may fall within the 5-year good moral character period in applying for citizenship. If it is the only crime of moral turpitude, which theft falls under a crime involving moral turpitude, then you may be able to invoke the petty offense exception if there's only one, and say, okay, I know this falls under the 5-year statutory good moral character period for purposes of filing the N-400, but the max conviction for a petty theft is a year, and I say the judge imposed a 30-day suspended jail sentence, I fall under this petty offense exception, so therefore please approve my N-400. So I'm sorry that the N-400 was denied. Depending on the sentence that was imposed and the actual conviction, I don't know what the conviction is, you may be able to win on appeal for that. So yes, long answer long is we do help with that.
Right.
All right. Hopefully I answered your question. If I did not answer your question, if we didn't answer your question, please just write in the comments and we'll try to clarify that a little bit more.
And for those of you who are watching who weren't the person asking the question, just again, when we're talking about this petty offense exception, this is a conviction that the maximum sentence that could have been imposed was 12 months or less, and the actual sentence that you received was 6 months or less, and it was a crime involving moral turpitude. And when that happens, it can fall under this exception. So if you are looking to naturalize and you have something like that and you just assumed that you were completely, dead on arrival and you weren't going to be able to do it, you may be wrong about that. So you may want to give us a call to inquire about whether you're eligible. All right?
Right. And Mr. Kolapudi wrote in, and it sounds like the imposed sentence was not over 6 months or more. And so potentially your wife does fall under the petty offense exception. And maybe the question for all of you right now is, okay, well, if she does fall under the petty offense exception, why was the case denied? I don't know. I don't know.
See the rest of the question now?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know why the case was denied. There could have been many factors, but one thing I want to mention is that people make mistakes. I mean, immigration officers make mistakes. You make mistakes. Immigration lawyers make mistakes. And if that's the case here, then there's a good chance that it will be approved at the appeal stage. I mean, it's a bummer that you have to file the appeal and pay the filing fee for that. But, we'll be happy to take a look at it. All right. So do we have another comment here?
Okay, yeah.
So this is a question that we're getting I'm going to just go ahead and copy this, but I'm going to, I'm going to go into inspirational immigration story. This is but Elder, I see your question. We're going to answer your question, and don't worry. So this is our way of making you stay on.
Yeah.
Stay on to watch. Hopefully you're having a good time. John and we always have a good time on Facebook Live.
Absolutely.
Right?
Of course.
And guys, look, I have a white sweater, a cream sweater. This is a present for my daughters for my birthday. I think they want me to wear more colors that are other than black or gray.
I have a Navy sports coat, also a present for my daughters for my birthday in January.
Oh yeah, this is nice. Very, very, very lovely. All right, so the reason I'm not dying to tell the immigration inspirational story of the week, but because it is my birthday weekend, I wanted to talk about my parents as the immigration inspirational story of the week. I mean, everyone loves their parents, right? Everyone loves their parents, but everyone hopefully believes that their parents have an incredible story, and I know that everyone does have an incredible story to tell. But this one is an immigration one, and that's why I chose them. I mean, they were going to be featured at some point in time. Come on, guys. I was going to feature my own parents at some point in time. So I thought now would be a great... Uh-oh. The oven is beeping.
That's okay.
Can you guys hear the oven beeping? Okay, you know what? Why don't you start talking about my parents real quick, and I'm going to text Sammy to tell her to turn the oven off.
Okay, well, they're lovely people. My in-laws, they're wonderful, wonderful people. So they were both born in the Philippines, of course, and Filipino, and they came to the United States in the mid '60s. Radlin's father, Conrado, he joined the Navy in the Philippines. The Philippines in the United States had a deal then that if you joined the U.S. military and you were Filipino, you could get a fast track to U.S. citizenship.
Right.
And I'll let you pick it up from there.
Okay. So yes, just as John said, my parents are from the Philippines, and my dad immigrated through the U.S. Navy. My mom, she came to the United States and was recruited to do a working, I don't even know what it was at that time, but it was a program that brought people from the Philippines to help with phlebotomy. So she came to help with, the U.S. must have had a phlebotomy shortage, and that's what she came to the United States for. And then they weren't married at the time, so they came, and my mom's first stop when she immigrated to the United States was the Chicago YWCA, and that's where she stayed. And my parents got married in Chicago, and when I look at old pictures of them, it's like these two young, very small Filipinos with like snowdrifts all over them. So it must have been just quite an unbelievable experience for them to come from the Philippines, where, you know, I have Quezon City on my weather, and I look at the weather every day, and it's, you know, 80s, 90s, and for them to come to Chicago in the dead of winter and just to experience that must have just been unbelievable, and what a courageous thing to do. So my dad stayed in the military. He was a mess, I think it was called a mess specialist, also known as a cook. And he was, you know, he loves the U.S. Navy. I mean, he really, really has a lot of loyalty to the U.S. Navy for allowing him to do what he did here in the United States. But he got out after 9 years. He's not like, you know, many Filipinos in Virginia Beach and Norfolk and the Hampton Roads area who stayed in for 30, retired, get the retirement check. My dad was just like, I can't do this anymore. He just has an entrepreneur spirit and heart. And from the stories that they tell, much to my mother's dismay, he quit the Navy, and he quit health insurance and a good steady paycheck and a job. And he went and bought a seafood market, a tiny little seafood store with like a couple of $100 in their pocket, and traded their car for the fish market. So that was in 1974, and my parents owned that store, and we worked in that store and grew up in that store, and they turned it into an international grocery store, and it was really a destination for all the people in Hampton Roads who missed their foods from, you know, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, India. We had customers from all over the world, and it was just, looking back, it really was an amazing experience for us as the children to be able to meet and talk to people from all over the world on a regular basis. I mean, trust me, when I was a kid and teenager growing up, I didn't see it that way. I see it now as a mature adult. But my parents, they just worked really hard. Our store was open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 364 and a half days a year, because we were open for a half day on Christmas, in case somebody forgot their green bananas or ginger or whatever it is they forgot on Christmas Day. My parents would be open half of the day in order to serve them. So it really became a destination. Unfortunately, in 1998, the year that John and I graduated from law school,
I remember it well.
my parents, we had a terrible fire, destroyed the grocery store business, and my parents, being entrepreneurs that they are, they immediately shifted. They had a side business of shipping things from the United States to the Philippines, and so they ramped that up. And they're very successful in their business endeavors, I will say, but even more so in with regard to our family. So I have 2 siblings. My parents have 8 grandchildren, and everyone just loves them to death. every part of the family, every member of the family just loves them to death. And what more could you ask for, right? What more could you ask for? And I just want to say thank you to my parents. You guys are my heroes, and I don't know if they're watching or not, but if you catch this, thank you so much for, giving me an inspiring story to tell tonight, and always. It's my story. It's my go-to story. Sometimes I don't want to tell that story again. People are like, it's a good story, and it really is. And if you guys have any inspirational stories that you would like for us to share on our weekly Facebook Live, please do. But thanks for listening to the inspirational story about my parents. Obviously very near and dear to my heart.
No, they're great. They're great.
All right, we have a question. Yes?
Well, yeah, we had the one question we'll get to in a second. There was a real quick follow-up there, and that was, and we'll address this quickly.
Okay.
If another attorney has filed the application, and now they may want to switch and say, have you represent them, for example, is that a problem?
Not a problem. I would ask a couple of questions of the person who's asking this question, and is number one, why is it that you want to switch attorneys? Do you believe that something went wrong, or and if that's the case, then yes, absolutely feel free to switch attorneys if you think that maybe there's something went wrong, or the attorney did something wrong, or maybe there was bad communication between the attorney, whatever the case may be, that you may want to switch. But, and I always tell people this is, what is it that the saying? You should try to leave with the girl that you came to the dance with, right?
Dance with the one you came with.
Right, dance with the one you came with. And the reason I say that is because your attorney has walked this journey with you. The attorney did your intake. The attorney completed your N400 application. The attorney maybe went to that N400 interview with you. So they know what's going on with your case. If your attorney is saying this is nonsense, the officer made a mistake, and we're going to 100% win on appeal, then I would stay with your lawyer. I mean, of course, we love to have new clients and assist people wherever we can. But it's just professionally speaking, there could be a lot of things going on here, and from the fact pattern that was written in our comments, there could be a mistake. So that's my answer to that, and let us know if you have any follow-up questions about that.
Okay, did you want to field this next question?
Sure. Let me just take a look at it really quick. Do you want to?
Well, while she's looking at that, one of the things I did want to mention while we're talking about things being denied because of criminal offenses, all these immigration cases, whether you're getting a green card, whether you're becoming a U.S. citizen, whether you're trying to get a visa to come to the United States, whether you're trying to renew something, it kind of goes without saying, but I really should emphasize criminal convictions in all of these scenarios create trouble or can create trouble. And so obviously you want to try to avoid it if possible. And the one thing I really have been mentioning a lot lately is marijuana. There's a lot of talk about marijuana becoming legal, and I don't want people to have the false impression that that's okay then, that they can go ahead and partake in marijuana use, and if they get caught, it's no big deal. It may be it's decriminalized now, and it may actually become legal in Virginia in the future. Looks like it's going to. But that does not mean that it's okay for immigration purposes. Okay, so if you are not a U.S. citizen, you should stay away from marijuana for now until it becomes legal at a federal level, if that ever happens. Okay, and of course, just try to stay out of trouble. I mean, again, I know everybody tries to stay out of trouble, but if you're a non-U.S. citizen, you really have to try even a little bit harder because a little thing, we've seen it time and time again, a pretty minor situation that would really be a minor situation for a U.S. citizen. I mean, they feel bad about it and feel guilty about it, but they just move on. Then creates a lot of heartburn and a lot of headache, and sometimes really, really catastrophic results for the immigration case. So be super careful. Okay, that's my advice, which I know everybody tries to be, but really, really, really take it to heart. Okay?
Very, very, very great advice. All right, so let's see. Let me read this really quickly from the next person who wrote a comment and has a question.
Right.
It's a really good question. So the story is, I was really depressed losing my job in my home country and just want to take the opportunity to visit my dad, who is a lawful permanent resident here in the United States. He is encouraging me to stay on my B2 visa so he can file for me and apply for adjustment of status. Is that possible? If yes, what would be the processing time to get my green card? What a great question. We've seen this before. You know, someone comes in on a tourist visa, B1, B2. Typically, the stay is going to be a max of 6 months. So you should leave within that 6 month time period unless you file for an extension of it, or as this person is asking, file for adjustment of status or go into a different status if that is possible. So one thing I want to know is, first and foremost, how old are you? Because that's going to be really important in answering this question. So let's just assume that Elder, I think Elder is the one who wrote this question in. Let's just assume that Elder is under the age of 21. Currently, the visa bulletin shows that the child of a lawful permanent resident under the age of 21, it's current. So what that means is Elder can potentially, or a person in these circumstances, can potentially get filed an I-130 petition on his behalf by his lawful permanent resident dad and move right into concurrently filing the green card application or the adjustment of status application. Again, I want to emphasize this is not legal advice. I'm going by, a question I don't know the person asking. I don't know what the age is or any of the circumstances, or if there's anything that would prevent him or her from getting a green card, and that's something that has to be looked at. So that's the answer would be yes, potentially. A person who is here on a B1, B2 visa and they are under the age of 21 and Elder is not, then and they have a lawful permanent resident parent, then that parent can potentially file the I-130, I-45 concurrently, and that person can do adjustment of status. Again, with the caveat that the person, the child under 21, has to be eligible for adjustment of status. In other words, they don't have anything that would make them inadmissible or ineligible to get that green card. So Elder's 30. The answer is going to be no. You cannot file for adjustment of status because in the F2. So what country is this? I'm gonna guess. Let's take a look at the last name. I don't know let me see here. What country? Do we have a country? Haiti. Okay, got it. I just clicked on his name and there it popped up. I'm so smart. So social media techie. All right. So Elder's from Haiti. Let's take a look at the visa bulletin here. Let me see here. Yeah. So it's taking, approximately 6.5 years for a lawful permanent, the son over 21 of a lawful permanent resident, unmarried of course, to immigrate to the United States. So that is the waiting period. So as I said earlier, you're here on a tourist visa. You can only your maximum stay is 6 months unless you extend that. And so you would not be eligible for adjustment of status under those facts. If someone has filed for you before, which again, I'm sure Elder would have mentioned that if someone has filed for him before, then, we could look at a previous priority date or date of filing for another type of application. So this is a really, really good question because we are getting this question a lot. I'm here on a tourist visa or I'm coming on a tourist visa. Can I adjust my status to that of a lawful permanent resident? Typically and generally speaking, you've got to have a petitioner. So you've got to have a U.S. citizen spouse or a parent Well, let me back up a little bit, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds with this, but when someone asks me the question, I'm here on a tourist visa, can I adjust my status to that of a lawful permanent resident? Okay, two ways to do it: family-based, family member petitioning for you, and employment. Right now, the only way you can adjust your status as a B1, B2 through a family member is if that family member is a U.S. citizen spouse, okay? Or that person is a lawful permanent resident. And as I said, because of the visa bulletin right now, you're under the age of 21, okay? So that's current. Or if you are a parent and your child is a U.S. citizen. So those are the scenarios right now in which somebody on a B1, B2 visa can adjust their status, meaning they don't have to go back to their country. They can do it here. There are also employment-based ways to do that, and that's if you're a person of extraordinary ability, okay, or you're seeking a national interest waiver and you're able to get in through that way. So those are pretty tough standards, and if you want more information about that, please direct message us and I'll send you the requirements to be a person, an alien of extraordinary ability, and if you are qualified for national interest waiver. So it's tough. It is tough to, other than those family categories that I mentioned, it's tough to adjust your status to that of lawful permanent resident. What typically happens is, maybe there's an extension, maybe you've got an employer and you're here and they're filing an H-1B and you register and you actually get picked, and then you can file the H-1B. So there are a lot of different scenarios, but it's very limited in a sense when you think about just all the broad visa categories that can then occur. So I hope that answered your question, Elder.
Yeah, and caution here again with the visas. If you're here and circumstances have changed, that's one thing. But be careful when you're applying for visas and entering. What your intent matters. So make sure that your intent when you're coming is the visa that you have. Oh
yes, what a good point. And yeah, my throat is dry because when I jumped in the water, prior to jumping in the cold water, I was just screaming at the top of my lungs to pump myself up. So my throat is a little dry, but that is a really good point. Yeah. We are, like I said, we're getting a lot of questions about, hey, I'm coming in on a B1, B2 visa, can I adjust my status? Well, is that Carrie's question? I got it. If you're coming in on a tourist visa, well, your intent should be that of temporary non-immigrant status, and it's okay to think about it, but you certainly should not have the intent to enter the United States on a B1, B2, and then look to ways to adjust your status.
Yeah. Keep it in your thoughts.
No, don't even keep it in your thoughts, because it's the intent.
You can. Yeah, that's right. Don't even think it. Why you can't stop yourself from thinking?
You can't stop yourself. I mean, I know I can't stop myself from thinking. My mind is crazy. But let me see here. I'm so happy about all these questions. Are you happy about all the questions?
I'm very happy. So one.
Do we have any water?
One's a very a general question.
Yes.
The process to bring an adult son to the U.S.
Okay. So the process to bring an adult son, and I'm going to assume that the person asking is a U.S. citizen, or the person is a lawful permanent resident, and the adult son, 2 years old, is unmarried. Okay, so that it actually can happen. So any married children of a lawful permanent resident, that lawful permanent resident cannot file a petition for a married son or daughter. Okay, that aside, let's assume the petitioner, the person filing the petition, is either a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident, and the 22-year-old is unmarried. Okay, the very first step in that process is to file the I-130 petition. I-130 petition. So
unmarried.
Yes, unmarried. So I-130, you can Google that. You can find that form on uscis.gov, and that's the very first step. So on the I-130 petition, in this particular scenario, Carrie, which assumes she's a U.S. citizen, has to show that she is a U.S. citizen. So she needs to provide proof of that. She needs to show her U.S. passport, or if she was born in the United States, her birth certificate, or if she was naturalized, her certificate of naturalization. And Carrie asked if the husband can file for him. Yes, husband can file for your son if he's a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. So that's the first step, and that first step is taking about 9 months or so to approve. So my number one recommendation is to go ahead and file the I-130 petition if you want that to, just get in there and get in line for your priority date. And once the I-130 petition is approved, then it goes to National Visa Center processing, and that's going to take a little while to get there. I don't know what the country is where Carrie's son is from, but let's assume they're from somewhere not China, India, Mexico, or the Philippines, okay, which have longer processing times.
Very long.
Right. The filing the I-130 petition is just one part of it. And as I mentioned to Jamaica, as I mentioned to Elder, the processing times right now, it's taking about 6 years because son is over the age of 21 as a lawful permanent resident. And it's even taking longer, let's see, for the unmarried son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, they're processing cases that were filed September 15th of 2014. So that's even longer. So the I-130 petition is the very first step. You've got to file that because then the date that you file that is your priority date. Mm-hmm. And that's priority date is, okay, when did Carrie and her son and her family get in line to file this I-130 petition? Okay, when did they actually get in line? And that's the date that they're going to use to see when you ultimately can get that visa. So there is a long wait for the visa. My recommendation is to go ahead and file it because you're going to be waiting. You're going to be waiting. I'm going to be here. You're going to be here. Everyone's going to be here.
The clock won't start ticking until you file. So
right.
The sooner you get that going, the sooner that 6 years is going to come.
Correct. And that could get shorter periods of, the backlog could get reduced. Part of John's going to talk about a little bit about the American Citizenship Act of 2021, the proposed immigration reform bill. They're talking about reducing these backlogs significantly. So again, what John and I have been saying since day one of getting on Facebook Live, which is our 1 year anniversary, in fact, is this weekend, because we've been doing this for 1 year. Right. Yay, hooray, is to get in line. And that is by filing the I-130 petition. That's the kickoff. That's the one thing you have to worry about. Actually, and so I mentioned the proof of U.S. citizenship, and your husband would also have to prove that he is, in fact, your son's father. And that is going to be shown through your son's birth certificate. What's happening?
I don't know.
Never heard that before on a Facebook Live. So anyhow, hopefully that answered your question, Carrie. Give me a thumbs up if it has answered if we have answered your question, and if it hasn't, if we didn't answer your question, just let us know.
Yeah, so some of the changes that we're looking for, rather than just mention these backlogs being reduced, the diversity lottery number going from 55,000 to 80,000. But really the big news is that this new proposed immigration reform, it has been introduced in the Congress, and it will now go through the grinding of all the different debate. The big things that are coming out of it, one is that, of course, folks that are in the country that are undocumented and who can show that they were here on or before January 1st of 2021 will be eligible, first of all, to get essentially a green card, which will be good for 5 years, and at the end of that 5 years, then be able to apply for a 3-year citizenship path. So we're talking about 8 years total here. And just to tie this back to the original question about the theft and my warning about marijuana, all of this is going to be laced with the normal criminal background checks. And so if you have a criminal record, that's going to be potentially a problem, certainly going to slow things down and complicate. So if you've been staying out of trouble, now more than ever, continue to stay out of trouble, because you want to get on the non-criminal conviction glide path, if there is such a thing that comes out of this. All right. For those who have DACA and TPS, and as well also farm workers, there's talk that they will not get anything immediately, but they are going to be bumped to the very front of the line for the green cards. So they're going to be the very first people that are going to be processed for this. Again, subject to those restrictions. So I am cautiously optimistic right now. We've seen this movie before, where there's a big immigration reform bill introduced and it gets bogged down. What's encouraging to me, I know we all want major immigration reform, and I certainly am in that camp as well. But I also am aware of the realities that exist in the Congress, and I know that a lot of these senators and representatives are in districts where these are not easy popular votes for them. And so in the past, I feel like there's been a lot of talk in immigration reform in an all or nothing frame of mind, and that's often been the problem. And there already seems to be some softening in language from everyone on this, that, well, maybe we can break this apart a little bit. And I think that might actually help. I know that irks some people when they hear that from me. They say, oh no, we got to be in this, we got to fight for it all. And that's great, fight for it all. But in the meantime, it would be nice if it's going to stall out completely. I would rather at least have some of TPS and DACA, if those can peel out and be skinny bills that go through on their own, that would be great. For now, we'll take whatever we can get, and we'll just have to see how things go. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think the economy is going to be a big factor here. I think if the U.S. economy is rumbling forward and rolling ahead with a lot of good steam and things are going well, I think it becomes an easier proposition for this big bill to go through. If COVID-19 continues to make the economy stalled out and lockdowns continuing, I think it gets harder and harder for a big bill like this to go through when you've got a lot of, like I said, you're going to have all the typical folks that are opposed to it in Republican districts, for example, and states. And then you're also going to have layered on top of that Democrats that are in blue-collar areas where they're getting a lot of pressure from labor unions to protect workers that are already out of work. So I think what we should all hope for to have this big immigration reform go through is for the U.S. economy to continue to recover. If the economy recovers, I think this becomes an easier proposition for everyone. And it's really needed. I don't think there's anyone who can reasonably say that we don't need to reform our immigration system. We really do. One thing that's going to change in it as well that's proposed is eliminating alien and changing that to non-citizen. So the word alien will be struck from all of it and it'll just become non-citizen. So,
that's a great change.
Yeah. So keep your fingers crossed. If you want to get involved in this, the best thing you can do is call your representatives and put pressure on them. Tell them that, hey, I support this. If you're an immigrant and you want this to happen, and if you're not, call and say, hey, you know what, I'm a U.S. citizen, and you might think I don't have any dog in this fight, but I really think we need to get this done. I really support this. The more people that they hear from, it'll be more of a snowball get going. If they don't hear from anyone, and it's just kind of grinding along slowly, and no one's paying attention to it, and the news isn't covering it, you know what happens to those bills in the dark. They just sort of sputter out and
die on the vine.
Yeah, die on the vine, wither on the vine and die. That's right. So be vocal. That's the most important thing that you can do right now if you support this. All right?
That's great advice. All right. So on that, there was a question: with the current changes, is there a better chance for approval of residency with asylum cases, Honduras in particular, with little proof of motives, or on being married to a natural-born American citizen? So I'm going to say that I haven't read anything about the standards of adjudicating or deciding an asylum case have gotten, have lessened. So I think we're still going to be seeing the same asylum standards for adjudicating a case. That's not going to change. It's not going to get easier to do that, I don't believe. But they are thinking about eliminating a part of this is eliminating the rule that you have to apply for asylum within 1 year of arriving into the United States. So that's a good thing. On the second question on being married to a natural born American citizen, well, there are a lot of ways to kind of look at this question. I would need to know a few more details. I mean, there is the provisional waiver right now that we have. And I did read something about in this bill about getting rid of the provisional waiver and just allowing everyone to do adjustment of status in the United States. So that could be the case if they got rid of provisional waiver or the waiver and we didn't have to show extreme hardship in cases where a foreign national married a U.S. citizen and was not eligible for adjustment of status for whatever reason. With that said, if you are if you come into the United States without inspection and you marry a U.S. citizen, that person can typically not adjust status unless they have married someone in the military and then applied for and were granted parole in place, and then you can apply for adjustment of status. What we're doing with those cases where the person is not eligible for that, did not marry someone in the military, then we're doing the provisional waiver, and that, as this person probably knows, it's quite a long process, and sometimes people are not eligible for that depending on what they have in their immigration history. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please follow up with a comment about that.
Yeah, and I was
some more for the clarification.
You were correct. I was just double checking the White House fact sheet. The bill does eliminate the 1-year deadline for filing asylum claims and also provides additional funding in hopes to reduce the asylum application backlogs.
Yep.
So that can be encouraging for you, or should be anyway.
Absolutely. So we don't... You're very welcome. Thank you for the question. And again, we really appreciate everyone coming on tonight and asking these questions. It looks like we changed from Wednesday night to Sunday night, and there's definitely a lot more questions on a Sunday night, where Wednesday nights are kind of like no one's asking any questions. So we appreciate your questions. It makes it more fun for us to answer your questions, because it feels like we're helping.
I think the change to Sundays is a good one. I think we'll continue to do it on Sunday nights, Sunday evenings, I should say.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so if you guys saw our original post, right? Give me a thumbs up if you watched Jane the Virgin or you're familiar with the show Jane the Virgin.
Right.
So the question that I put up on the Facebook post to get you guys to tune in to Facebook Live tonight was, and if you're familiar with the show, well, for those who are not familiar, we're getting some thumbs up here, not familiar with the show. So John and I, because our daughters asked us to watch Jane the Virgin, they're like, Mom and Dad, you got to watch the show. It's great. I'm like, okay. Wow, look at how beautiful the sky is. You guys can't see this. It's gorgeous. We started watching this, and do you want to give a quick, no spoilers.
No spoilers. I mean, Jane the Virgin, for those of you who've seen it, Jane's grandmother, Abuela, she's undocumented, and is that a spoiler right there? I may have.
I mean, I would say it's not a spoiler.
Not a spoiler.
I don't know.
Well, anyway,
it's not
now
a big.
you know.
Unless you're an immigration lawyer, it is not a big deal that Abuela is undocumented.
Right. So one of the things, one of the problems with being a lawyer is that when you watch shows, anytime there's law in a show,
right,
if it's not accurate, you immediately notice it. You're like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
that's not right.
We finished the whole first season of Jane the Virgin, and everything is about, Abuela's not documented, and she's this, and she's afraid of the police. She's and so the past week I've been waking up every morning like, why is Abuela not?
Right. So
why does she not have her documents?
We're going to address two questions here. One is why has she not applied for anything?
Right.
And then there's a wrinkle that comes up. Well, that will be a spoiler alert, though, if we mention the wrinkle.
Well, We'll mention the wrinkle next week, just to keep it sticky. You know what I mean?
No, we can do it broadcasters do. We can say that we're going to discuss it, and if you don't want to hear it to sign off, you have, and we'll give them 5 seconds.
Right. So this beautiful family, the Villanuevas, Abuela is part of the one of 3 main women, the Villanueva women in Jane the Virgin, and we highly recommend it. It's very, very, very entertaining.
It's a great show.
But I noticed that Abuela's daughter, Xiomara, she was born in the United States 39 years ago. But all throughout this first episode, Abuela's is like, I'm undocumented, I have no papers, that makes me nervous. And I'm just like, she's from Venezuela. Abuela is from Venezuela. And from just the dialogue, I'm getting from the dialogue that Abuela has entered the United States with inspection. And what did we talk about right when this started, kind of in the middle? If you've entered the United States, right, with inspection, presumably Abuela came in on a B1, B2 with her husband Mateo and did not leave the United States. That happens. We know people, you and I know many people, but you all may know people who have done that as well. So she's here. She and Mateo overstay. They have Xiomara. And my question, again, Xiomara is 39 years old. Mateo has passed away. That's not a spoiler. My question the last week was like, how come she hasn't gotten her green card yet? Okay, because 1, she entered with inspection. Okay? 2, she has a U.S. citizen child. U.S. citizen child born in the United States can petition for their parent, but only until that child reaches the age of 21. You cannot petition. If you're 5 years old, your 5-year-old son who was born in the United States cannot petition for you. That child has to reach the age of 21. So Xiomara is 39. I'm like, okay, so 18 years, right? Like, why are you...
She's let 18 years pass before...
She has let 18 years pass.
Taking the action that she is able to take, which is to petition for her mother.
Right, and for Abuela to become a lawful permanent resident of the United States. And next week we're going to talk about some of the funny things at the immigration lawyers meeting, which was completely wrong. But I was wondering this, and then we watched a couple of episodes on Saturday, and it comes out why Abuela has not filed for her green card. And do you remember what it was?
You tell me.
Fear. She's been afraid all of these years to file for the green card.
Does that sound familiar to anyone out there?
It sounds familiar to me. I've known people who have not filed for citizenship, not petitioned for children, not filed for the green card because of fear. And interestingly, from what I was getting from this particular episode, I don't think Abuela and Xiomara have ever spoken with an immigration attorney. In all these years, living in Miami for 39 years, they have not one time spoken to an immigration attorney. Again, it's fear. And there's the scene where Abuela, she's going to finally go and speak to an immigration lawyer, and she's looking, like very professional. And Jane, her granddaughter's like, why are you dressed so nice? She's like, I want to make a good impression on the lawyer. I want the lawyer to know that I'm a good person. And I was just like, oh, wow. I can so relate to that. John and I can so relate to that. Why people do not move forward in their cases, because they are afraid.
Yes.
Anyhow, exciting conclusion. I don't know what's going to happen. We've been to the first immigration lawyer meeting. She hasn't gotten her green card yet, so we have to catch up on some episodes.
Here's the thing. I mean, she's afraid, and she's had this fear all these years. If they'd gone to an immigration lawyer 18 years earlier, the immigration lawyer would have told them, oh yeah, absolutely, there's something that we can do to help you. So even if you have fear, or somebody who's afraid, there's no harm in consulting with an immigration attorney about the options. The absolute worst case scenario is that the immigration lawyer says, yeah, there's really nothing that we can do for you right now. And then you're just right where you were when you started, okay? So, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's part of the fear. Maybe people just don't want to know the bad news. because they think it's there. They just rather just hold out hope. But you really, really should find out, because as Radlin said,
Yeah.
Abuela she could be a citizen by now, even with all the
4 times over.
with all the waiting times, you know.
4 times
So-
over. So we're talking about Jane the Virgin, guys. If you've just joined us,
Yeah.
and why Abuela is still undocumented. John and I just started the 2nd season. They've spoken with the immigration lawyer, and we're going to talk about next week some of the funny, incorrect things that happened during the immigration.
Yeah, and one of them, I want to mention the petitioner thing real quick.
Okay, all right.
Because, and this is it's a spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear this, then just hit the mute right now.
It's not a big part of it.
It's not a big part of the show. It's just that it's maybe a misconception that's out there, and it's in this show. I'm shocked that they would make this kind of a legal error, but in any event, so when they go to do this, they're left with the impression that Xiomara can't help Abuela because she has a prior conviction. Now remember, she's the U.S. citizen would be the petitioner here, okay? And they say basically that because she has this conviction, oh no, they can't do it. That is just completely false, okay? So if you are a U.S. citizen and you're going to be the petitioner for some other person, your criminal record is not the issue, okay? It's the person you're petitioning for. If they have criminal convictions, that could possibly be a problem no matter what the immigration scenario is. But the U.S. citizen that's doing the petitioning, their criminal record is not an issue. So
Right, and there's an exception to that when it deals with children, any type of convictions dealing with children. There's an exception, but generally speaking, if you are the U.S. citizen in this particular scenario, Xiomara, she has a felony theft conviction.
That's right, felony theft.
So they go on
Grand larceny.
this crazy thing about like getting rid of that theft conviction, and that is just completely false. But we'll talk about that a little bit more next week.
All right, we have another question that came
All right.
through here.
Is it about Jane the Virgin?
I don't think so. I can only read part of it. That's why I'm...
Okay, let's see. Should we see if we can... So who asked the question?
Sorry, I can't read that.
Oh wait, I've got it right here.
All right.
I've got it. Alfonsina. Hi there, I have a friend who has lived here in the U.S. for 6 years here in Virginia Beach, and she's here with a work permission, and can she aspire to have the green card? So, Alfonsina, that's a great question. Absolutely. It depends on whether her work, and again, I don't know what her status is or what type of work permission. Is she on an H-2B? Maybe she's on an H-1B. A lot of times our clients who are on H-1Bs, the employer will go ahead and take that next step and file for permanent employment for that particular employee through the labor certifications. I still call it labor certification, but it's also called the PERM process. So there are a couple of different ways to do that. We talked about extraordinary ability visas, extraordinary talent visas earlier. Perhaps she's also eligible to do that. Again, this is a very broad question, and my very broad answer is yes. She can potentially get lawful permanent residence through her work.
Yeah, or if she were to fall in love, if love is in the air.
That's right. That's true. Absolutely. Marriage to a U.S. citizen.
Marriage to a U.S. citizen
is
would
also a
be
possibility.
a vehicle to becoming a permanent resident as well.
Yep. But there are several ways, and if you want to put more details in the comments, I will be happy to address those. But thank you for the question. And guys, thank you so much for joining us on this very, very, very fun Facebook Live talking about Jane the Virgin,
Well, Jane the Virgin
and Abuela.
Plus, we had some really, really great questions.
Yes,
tonight.
yes, absolutely.
They were spot on, because they're the kind of questions that we're happy to answer them so that we can help the person who asked them. But they're questions that we see a lot of. They're familiar,
Very common
questions.
Right.
And so hopefully other people, even if they're watching this later, will say, hey, that's exactly the situation that I am curious about as well.
Yeah.
All right?
And going back to Abuela, we talked about this kind of in the middle of the Facebook Live, but Xiomara, the daughter, would have to concurrently file the I-130 petition and the green card application, the affidavit of support. Abuela could also file for the work permit. So she could be, I know she works, so she could be, have work authorization to work. Maybe she could switch her job or get another job and use the work authorization. And we also do permission to travel outside of the United States, the advanced parole application. She could also apply for that. I wouldn't recommend Abuela to travel outside of the country. Even with that, it still makes me nervous when my clients do that, when they've been out of status for any period of time. And Xiomara, yeah, she'd also have to file the affidavit of support. Now, I'm not sure how her career is going right now. But, she could have Rogelio sign the joint, be a joint sponsor on the affidavit of support. So, Carrie says, this is my first time, very informative. Thank you so much, Carrie. We will let you go and make dinner. We planned ahead and put dinner in the oven, and that was that beeping noise. But thank you guys all so much for joining. We had a great time tonight.
Yep, we're going to let you get out of here. We're going to get out of here. We will see you next Sunday, same time. Same place. Get your questions ready because that's what we're going to do is answer them.
Yes.
Right?
And if you guys think that any of the people that your friends, your family would benefit from our Facebook Lives and benefit from asking their immigration question, please share this. Please like our page. We really, really appreciate your support. And you can always send us a direct message. If it's a direct question with regard to something that was covered on Facebook Live, I will personally answer that. So thank you very much.
All right, everyone.
And Rena, have a great evening. Great to see you on here, and everyone else.
Have a great evening too. All right.
2 thumbs up. Thanks,
thumbs
guys.
up, all right.
So much fun.
Take care. See you next week.